Why are some shows easy to get in high definition but others aren't? Today I'll be talking about the process and what it would take for Power Rangers to release in high definition. But before I start, let me give you a basic understanding on what is and isn't HD. HD is determined by the amount of pixels in a digital video. More pixels, the higher the resolution. For film, how much light exposure it gets, bigger size of the film, and the higher manufacturing quality equals higher to the resolution it can be. The aspect ratio of a TV or a movie doesn't determine this. A 4:3 square TV show can be HD like Star Trek The Next Generation, but a 16:9 TV show like early seasons of Mythbusters can be SD. Even silent films dating back to the 1920s are in HD. HD doesn't require a digital camera. So why are a lot of TV shows still not in HD? Sometime in the 1980s for America, more and more shows were starting to be edited commonly on SD tapes. You can edit and release an episode of a show much faster, and it was much cheaper than the older process of working on film. While most shows were recorded on film, the editing, effects, and any minor fixes were only done at an SD level. There is no final HD master for a lot of TV series. Why movies didn't do this was because TV shows aren't projected on 40-foot tall screens where you need film's detail. Only rarely has 80s and 90s shows been completed on film. A notable mention would be Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. So far, it's the only classic Disney TV show in HD and only available digitally that way. Some lower budget shows like, say, Charles in Charge or The Golden Girls were only shot on tape, so a HD version of these shows can never be done, just like classic Doctor Who, stuck forever in SD besides Pertwee's first story. To get a show into high def, it would require the series to be put back into post-production. Power Rangers has a couple of added steps needed for this to happen on top of it. Let's just focus on MMPR Season 1. It's made from US film material, Japan's Zyuranger season, and material shot in Japan for the US as Ju 1.5 and 2 footage. Power Rangers was filmed on old 16mm cameras and cheaper film stock, but the show could be remastered. A team would have to be assembled, and people who worked on the show brought back in to start reassembling the series from scratch. But a lot of issues come into play. Where is the film located? It can be lost. PR is a kid's show. Less care is taken by companies. As we know from experience with the Time Force Lost Uncensored episodes, is the film in an okay condition? Next, Saban Brands would have to contact Toei and see if they have an HD source for Zyuranger. Luckily, in this case, they do. Zyuranger was finalized in film, Toei just hasn't released the season in HD as of this video. The next hurdle? Who has Ju 1.5 and 2 footage? Does Japan or the US? Since Ju 1.5 and 2 is more minor, archiving could have been even more relaxed. Getting past this first bump, the season now needs to be digitally scanned in, re-edited, and color balanced. The cool bonus for this is the company could find bloopers or deleted material and release them. After this comes the hardest part of the remaster, recreating all the visual effects. Minus the Zyuranger footage, all the effects throughout the first season would have to be recomposited back in or recreated from scratch. Things like Zordon's head, David Fielding was filmed on a green screen, so that material would be in HD, but the warping liquid effect over his head would have to be recreated since that was most likely done at SD quality only. All the scene transition wipes would have to be recreated, the animation of the show's logo would have to be redone, the teleporter effect, while it's simple to today's standards, it was still animated frame by frame. It would take a few days of work to redo. Title cards are another thing needed to be done. Then checking on any Zyuranger footage changes. There were a few cases of fixes done. One close-up of the Power Morpher when Zordon came back in Green with Evil had the Power Ranger text put over the Zyuranger text, or other applications of the footage, like in the pilot. Loki's arriving flash was used as the energy burst to put the Power Morphers on the Rangers. They had to paint out the Japanese text. Things of this nature have to be checked on. The last bit would be the sound mix. They could do a 5.1 mix or do a standard stereo audio. All this can easily take 1 year. The big question, would it sell enough? Maybe season 1, but after? I started out. This is the main reason why I don't see PR ever being remastered. If Star Trek TNG can't be successful with people buying it physically or digitally, then there is no hope for PR. Other problems start to crop up as you go along too. Starting from Car Ranger, Toei began editing the show on tape, so there wouldn't be an HD source anymore. Toei would have to look through their archive for the material, would they cooperate or not? And would enough people really buy later PR seasons like Turbo in HD? I don't see it happening. One of the bad seasons would end up canceling future works. And as the seasons go along, the effects get more complicated. Lost Galaxy would take even more time to remaster because of TerraVenture. The morph effects starting from Zeo get more flashy. Then you run into Wild Force and up. All the CGI effects from Gowranger would only be in SD. They have to be recreated or just upscaled. More and more stuff would stay in SD. You guys probably remember an interview from Paul Schreier talking about Super 16. That basically means certain cameras shot in a wider area, which a lot of people thought the show could be remastered in widescreen. There's a lot of issues with this. Yes, some cameras shot in widescreen, but not all. So not all material is in widescreen. The Japanese footage is definitely not, and most likely the shots with the wider area would not be protected, meaning junk like lights, crew people, cameras, mic, and other stuff can be visible. So putting the series in widescreen would most likely end up doing a top and bottom crop, which your own TV can do now. What about X-Files? All 9 seasons were remastered. Fox did that on the cheap side. First, the show was shot on widescreen since day one. Second, most of the visual effects were just upscaled. And third, the series doesn't heavily use effects, so it's overall cheaper to remaster compared to Power Rangers. Plus, Power Rangers has over 700 episodes in SD. Now, some of you would ask, why not just SD upscale PR then? That's the cheap and easy way to do it. But there's no real point. The image isn't going to get any better. The only improvement would be the less visible pixels, since they wouldn't be using the older MPEG-2 codec from the DVDs, but everything else would be the same. You might as well keep your DVDs. This is what Toei did with the Deca Ranger Blu-rays and the earlier Kamen Rider seasons like Fi's. Fi's being shot on tape, so it's stuck as SD forever, but Deca Ranger could have been properly remastered. They didn't do it. It also wouldn't be good just remastering the US film and just upscaling the effects, because once we get to Car Ranger footage, the show would constantly be switching between SD and HD every other scene. What about Doctor Who seasons 1 through 4? They were upscaled. In Doctor Who's case, UK uses the PAL format, which has 100 extra lines of resolution, 576 compared to 480, so Americans would get a higher quality image compared to the old DVD versions. It's a little bit better, but it's there. That is the case for PR. It's a US-Japanese show that's only in SD and TSC format. Would I love if all PR, bad and good seasons be remastered? Yeah, of course. I would love to be a part of the remastering team. But seeing it done the proper way, I seriously doubt it. We could potentially get other rare things, like hear the original voices of the replacements for the trio. Now, the Jew 1.5 and 2 audio, I doubt. While we've seen raw footage of it, I doubt any audio was ever recorded for it. There would have been no script given to the Japanese teams, since all the material was recorded in a very short time, just a basic outline to follow and do things more to the personalities of the MMPR cast, like Billy being the guy building stuff. The rest was left to Japan to think up, and no audio wouldn't have ever been needed. Not to mention, speaking Japanese would in no way help with English spoken voiceover timings to the video. That's it for the process of remastering Power Rangers. Thanks for watching.